young men there preparing for the challenge of the priesthood. Now, in 1861, a local priest in Bunclody, County Wexford, invited a French order of nuns to come to the town, set up a school and educate its young people. The Faithful Company of Jesus, or FCJ sisters, first set up a national school 150 years ago and then followed up with a girls' boarding school. Since then, the FCJ order has provided an unbroken line of service of education to the town. Helen McInerney has the story.
It's a special year of celebration for the FCJ Secondary School in Bunclody in County Wexford. Nuns, teachers and students are commemorating 150 years of unbroken service of education at the school. Not long after the Great Famine had decimated the country in the 19th century, a local priest in Bunclody invited a French order of nuns to come to the town to educate its young people.
In 1861, 5 sisters came here. Father Parle was the parish priest, and according to local tradition, he had been trained in Paris and got to know our sisters there, who had been founded some years before. So he contacted our Superior General in France and asked her if she would send sisters, and she said she would, and she did.
The nuns first established the primary school, followed quickly by the boarding school.
There was a long tradition, I can recall from hearing from my own family, that you sent your girls to school to be finished off before they came home to be married off. So I guess there was that kind of tradition.
When nuns started in Ireland, especially the Presentation Sisters, they were educating the poor. By the 1860s, for the first time with the founding of the Catholic University, which later became UCD, for the first time there was a Catholic middle class in Ireland. Doctors, solicitors, architects, engineers, and they needed wives. So the Catholic leadership, they wanted schools, good quality schools, which would teach young ladies to be respectable middle class wives for this emerging professional group.
Once known as Newtown Barry, the town changed its name to Bunclody in the 1920s with the formation of the new state.
It was probably from about the 1910 or so onwards, a sister came here in charge of both the boarding school and in charge of the convent. She was called Mother Victoire Heenahan, and she was a very formidable lady, I do believe, and she would have begun to emphasise the academic side of things. So there would have been less emphasis on walking correctly and on music and so on. It continued, mind you, and so on, but less so and more a focus on the academic. And when the opportunity for inter-cert and leaving cert came in, they took up on it immediately.
When free education was introduced, numbers increased at the FCJ Secondary School, and for the first time, boys were admitted.
I was the second year of boys in the FCJ in Bunclody, so they were still getting used to that rather strange and exotic species which they hadn't had to deal with for the first 100 years of their existence in Bunclody. So, you know, there was still that sense there, like that we should be kind of elegant and refined and young gentlemen. By the 1970s, with free education, you obviously had a massive expansion in the number of people kind of coming in. The taking in of boys was kind of part of that, and obviously the taking in of a much higher cohort of day students. So the character of FCJ changed in the 1970s, and then it became much more focused on academics, in which it did really, really well. And I would always say I had very fine teachers in FCJ, did really well there, and they set me up for kind of future success. So again, like they made the transition very well from being an elite boarding school into being a high-performing academic school.
Still to this day, I meet 7 of my girlfriends from that class, and we have great memories, and we reminisce quite a lot about what happened in those days. But I suppose I think about the incredible women who devoted their lives to managing the school, to the teaching that they gave us, and to ensuring that we had the broadest possible education in terms of the arts, and also the choirs we were involved in, the sports we were involved in. And also, I suppose, I got my love of languages from Bunclody.
Like many other boarding schools in the country, the 1980s brought major changes.
There was a general visitation, as we would call it, or the Superior General was over, and she spoke, as she would do, to the teaching sisters about how things were and so on. And she raised the question of the boarding school. The day school was getting bigger by the school, and then we were squeezing students into classrooms, and single one of the sisters said, "Close the boarding school." I couldn't believe it when I heard it.
The boarding school eventually closed in 1986. The fabric of the original school building had deteriorated. It was eventually demolished and replaced by a new purpose-built school. At its peak, there were some 25 nuns in the convent in Bunclody. But by the 1980s, that number had begun to dwindle.
We were 24 when I came first. Then we dwindled bit by bit. And now we're just 3. And because the 3 of us are involved in school, we have a common vision and a common purpose. And it makes it very easy for us. We have common holidays as well, and that's very handy.
In the 1860s, when the school was first established, the nuns encouraged a love of music in the young ladies. Today, the school boasts 3 orchestras under the tutelage of Dale Hennessy, and many of its past pupils have gone on to make music their career.
I went to school here in this convent, fond memories with the nuns and in the music programme with Gerard Grant and the school orchestra. Anyone that knows me or knew me in the past know me for my singing, and always singing songs. So to fulfil it and to see it as a job and something that I love, and I travelled the globe with the Irish tenors and in the solo capacity, singing in opera and concerts. I'm very, very fortunate.
The FCJ Order also has 2 schools in Limerick, at Bruff and Laurel Hill. They're also in Kimmage and Ballally in Dublin. Over the past 150 years, the school has seen many changes. 4 years ago, the first ever lay principal was appointed to the school.
Wonderful, a privilege and an honour. I couldn't tell you, really, words can't express how proud I feel to be the first lay principal, but also I feel a huge responsibility, because both the Deputy Principal, Brendan Daly, and myself feel strongly that we must carry the baton and continue the wonderful tradition of FCJ education.
The numbers at the school have also steadily increased.
781, so we're just under 800, and we have about 8 more girls than boys, so almost equal, boys and girls. They come from a wide area, from down below Enniscorthy, up beyond Ballin towards Carlow, and into Tinnahealy, right up to Kiltegan, and almost close to Baltinglass.
We are here today to follow in the footsteps of Jesus.
As the school prepares to celebrate the 150th anniversary with a big concert on the 13th of April, the contribution of the FCJ sisters to education in Bunclody and their legacy continues.
And isn't it great to see the tradition of education still continuing in Bunclody?